Hello, in this example, I'm going to show how to do two-way data binding in about 15 lines of code with no third-party libraries. No Vue, no Angular, no React, nothing. Just, so let's type here, we'll send a message. This is two-way. Notice it's updating down here. This is kind of the, you know, back in the day, this was like the first wow example of two-way data binding. Pretty nice. Now, before I show you the code, you might ask, why would anyone want to do this? Well, let's just say I work in a constrained environment, and there's some overhead with using third-party libraries. I've got to stay on the current version. And every time you upgrade versions, there's breaking changes, and then you got to redeploy, and it's just a pain. And then there's paperwork with security stuff that you got to fill out. Are there any vulnerabilities or any CVEs associated with it? When Internet Explorer died, that was the opening for me to be able to try something different. So for the past year and a half, I have been writing all of my work in ES6, ESM native, JavaScript native custom elements. Everything that you really need to know, believe it or not, is on MDN, and with extra little bit of Googling on some things. But all in all, it's while I will say a little verbose, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So let's get into the code here real quick. Now, before I get into the code, let me state one thing. Every time this input changes, or an input changes, this entire block of HTML is being overwritten with a brand new version, not just this field or this field. In this example, I'm overwriting everything. Now, I wouldn't do that in production. If I had to ship this as an app for whatever reason, let's play pretend here, I would just update this section if I was going to take this approach. But right now, I just wanted to show brute force updating the whole thing. I know that's when I first started doing this, it blew my mind. I don't have to do much of this. But browsers are just so performant. So, quick look, got a constructor, connected callback, which if you don't know that, that's part of the specification for custom elements. When an element is added to the DOM, this gets called, kicks things off. We'll talk about that later. The template. So that's the template. There's the preview section that gets updated. And yes, I'm updating every time a key changes. This whole section is getting updated. Now, this is important right here. Notice how the name of the input element matches my property name on my object. So another important piece, I'm inheriting from HTML form element, so this is a form, and I get all the goodies that come along with form, including form element. This here, if anything, is the magic piece besides making sure that the object and the form match. This is the other piece that just makes it really nice. Using the form data API, passing the form into it, telling it to the entries. So basically all this does is it gives me a nice JSON object that looks exactly like the one in my constructor. But the difference is the data is all created from whatever the current state of the form is. Pretty simple. And then I'm overwriting it. Now, the rest of this is just for focus stuff. If you don't have these other lines of code in there, what happens is every time you enter a letter, your cursor goes back to the beginning. And that's no fun. You don't want to have to fast forward or do anything fancy. So again, that just sets the focus for you. There you go. So let's so if I were going to do this really in production, we'll go over some performance metrics here in a second, but if I was really going to do this production, I would not be overwriting the whole form. I would just overwrite this section. So instead of this.enter HTML, I would have queried the preview and then set the inner preview inner HTML to this. I would have pulled this out into its own template. Anyway, let's take a look at some performance real quick and record. Just got some data there. Let's zoom in. So there we've got a key change. There's a key event. So this one took 32 or 3.21 milliseconds. You can also break this down. I've looked at this enough that really there's kind of like a dividing line right here where, yeah, so the focus event there takes 0.67. So that's, you know, a big chunk of time that probably could have been cleaned up a little bit more, and then the rest of the time goes that. So, pretty interesting. Or, you know, not it just happens so fast you can't even see it. So let's take a look at for memory leaks here real quick, especially on the events. We'll take a snapshot as it is now. We'll go make some changes. Take another snapshot and let's look at those events. So I have 9 events, and after all those changes, so basically that whole form got wiped out a whole bunch of times. 9 events still. We could look at overall memory size. Oh, well, the memory size, but that's not gonna be noticeable anyway. You'd have to do a ton of changes to really show that. But our events are getting cleaned up afterwards, and so all in all, that's it. Anyway, I hope you found this at least interesting, and thank you.